Welcome to the latest Indie Dev Showcase video, highlighting the many dev submitted games and demos we try out here. If you'd like me to take a look at your game for a future piece, please get in touch. We are starting things off with the game Cascade Cafe. Please note the footage that you're seeing is taken from a demo while it was in early access. The game has since been released, and what you see may not represent the current version of it. But this is a game that can really only be described as, I guess, cozy. You play a character who goes to this cafe every day to play this hot new game that everyone is enjoying. And you'll learn the rules, you'll gain additional items and abilities, and your job each day is to beat whoever your friendly rival that you're going to run into. The game focuses a lot on the story outside the puzzle, but this is definitely a game that is on the smaller side in terms of gameplay and design. You're not going to be picking this one up for hundreds of hours, or for, some dastardly twist outside or out of a Daniel Mullins kind of game. But like I said, this is definitely a cozy style game. Definitely one to pick up if you're looking for a game to relax to, with some puzzle solving with the various matches. But again, this is going to be on the simpler side. There were different difficulty settings, and you'll gain more rules and abilities as you go through it. And from the demo, I was enjoying this one. Again, not the deepest experience, but a great game to pick up if you're looking for a kind of a first-timer puzzle game, or something that is not going to be too stressful to experience. Now up we have Project Solace. This is kind of like action platformer meets zombie apocalypse. The concept is that we are a group of survivors on an island when, just so happens while we're taping a reality show, the zombie apocalypse happens. And it's now up to us to survive and fire our way through hordes of these zombies in order to figure out how to get off the island and keep ourselves alive. Now, the game combines different aspects of survival and general gameplay. You have your platforming, which is, again, feels right out of a 2D platformer. But you also need to scavenge for resources, collect items for food, find and craft bullets and weapons. And there is progression in terms of getting new items or being able to improve your character stats. Now, the challenge of this game is that if a character dies, they are dead for good. Each character has different stats relating to their different ways they can attack, health, so on and so forth. And the game has an interesting idea because of that, but it does feel kind of like trying to do too many things at once. The survival elements didn't really feel all that integrated, and this is a game where it's very easy for a character to die with pits, spikes, and whatnot. And if you're trying to play this for all the survival aspects, this is definitely more on the action platformer side. And if you want to play this for the action platforming, you're still going to be having to do these like little mini games and keep gathering lots and lots of various MacGuffins and such. I would say this is a tough game to recommend, but if you're looking for, I think, like a lot of like different mechanics all happening at one time, then maybe at least check this one out and see if you'll enjoy it. For our next game, this is Weaving Tides, and this is an action-adventure game that kind of takes place in a yarn-based world. So I guess think more emotional Yoshi Woolly story or something along those lines. We play as Tess and her kind of adopted like yarn or a cloth-based dragon friend here, who go around mending the world and stitching things back together. But, of course, something bad happens, and it's up to us to explore, uncover our destiny, maybe find our missing family as well. So, the game itself, in terms of its gameplay, is all about you extending or creating these kinds of weaves with your tail. You can trap enemies underneath it, you can connect and stitch things back together, and you're going to use this to solve puzzles, fight enemies, gain new powers, again, all that good action-adventure stuff. Now, some of the puzzles can be a little tricky or a little janky, as you'll have to draw or move your tail to connect things in very specific patterns. And if you're not good at keeping your analog stick steady or having one with dead zone issues like yours truly, it can be more on the annoying side to do. All in all, this is not a hard game, and I would definitely put this more in the, non-threatening category. If you're looking for a challenge, Weaving Tides is not going to do it for you. And I would say this is a great game for younger fans or somebody looking for more of a relaxing or more of a low stakes kind of an action adventure game to play. There's different unlocks you can find, costumes, characters, all that other stuff. And all in all, I would not say this is a bad game, but it just didn't hold my interest after we played for 40 minutes to an hour. But again, if you're looking for something that's more on the, easier side to learn, then check this one out. With that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to look at for this showcase. As always, if you're interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with free-to-play coming in 2022. We now turn to Super Sami Roll. This is a 3D platformer, where you play as this lovely little lizard here who's trying to save the day by rolling, using your tongue to grapple, and collecting MacGuffins after MacGuffins after MacGuffins. So the structure of this game is pure 3D platformer. You move from world to world, level by level, you'll fight bad guys, and your job is to collect all the major rewards and get through within the time constraint. Now, one of the things about this game is that it may not look it from this footage, but this is on the harder side. The camera can certainly make it a little hard to gauge perspective sometimes, and you are going to be very limited in terms of time in this one. If you're trying to get through these levels and get all the stuff, you need to play this one very perfectly. And I would say that this is a pretty decent 3D platformer. It kind of in a way reminds me a little bit of something like Super Monkey Ball, where you have very specific routes that you can go, and a lot of this game is kind of maximizing the best ways and trying to do your own little speed run through. If you're looking for, I would say, an easy to learn 3D platformer, Super Sami Roll may be a little much in that respect. Again, do not let the kid-like graphics fool you in this one. But if you're like me and looking for another very challenging platform, especially one in 3D that we don't often see all that much, at least out of the indie space, then I would give this one a check, and you may enjoy it. We now turn to Godless, and this is footage taken from the game in early access and may not represent the current version of it. But the game describes itself as turn-based strategy meets roguelike. We play as the last god on this planet, and we're going to take revenge on the various mortals one island at a time. When you start the game, you'll choose your god, which will dictate what kind of powers and abilities you'll get access to. Each turn, you can play different abilities, some that can affect the board, some that can summon units, and so on and so forth, with your mission to defeat the enemies that are on the field before they kill you. When you lose, you'll lose health points, and run out of health, and it's game over. After each battle, you're able to spend resources to unlock new abilities, upgrades, passives, etc. And there's quite a decent variety in terms of the gods and their respective powers. The problem the game has is that it can be a little bit tricky to learn, and you do not control your units at all. It is all decided by the enemies, so your only thing is choosing what powers to play each turn. So if you're not a fan of that kind of idle or backseat style gameplay, this one may not do it for you. There's certainly potential here, and I have not played this one since we checked this out. I think it was very early into its early access. So there is the possibility that more has been added to this game since we looked at it. But I would say, like with a lot of the games for this episode, if this sounds interesting to you, then at least give it a check and see if it will kind of resonate with the kind of games you're looking for. For our last game of the showcase, this is A Tale of Synapse, the Chaos Theories. And this is a puzzle platformer with heavy emphasis on the puzzle solving. You play as these two characters here who are trapped in kind of this underground facility, and they're going to use the power of platforming, physics, and puzzles in order to escape. If you're playing the single player, you'll alternate between the two characters. If you're playing this multiplayer, somebody else, or local co-op I should say, someone will play as the little floating guy. So the game itself is kind of like very light version of something like the Ori series, or your standard action adventure platformer. But in those games where combat is the main focus, here it's more about the puzzle solving with some very light combat when you're dealing with like little enemies like this guy right here. So the thing about A Tale of Synapse is that, again, if you're hoping to play this purely for the platforming, obstacle and level design, this is not that game. This is definitely more about the puzzle solving, and there are quite a variety of them, built around math, physics, critical thinking, and so on. So if you're not a fan of kind of logic-based puzzles, this is not going to be the game for you. And it could be a hard sell considering that it is both platformer and puzzle, but it certainly has a unique charm to it. And I would say that if you are a fan of both, then I would give this one a check. But again, if you are not into like very challenging or just a variety of puzzles like this, then this game may be a little, I think, too split for your personal tastes. But with that said, we're going to wrap up this showcase here. As always, thank you so much for watching. Do the liking and subscribing and commenting. Let me take a look at your game for a future piece. Please get in touch and you'll find links to all the games down below. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where is in the art and science of games. And until next time, take care.